We've made it to the conclusion of Spring, the second of the 4 seasons of anime. There was the return of beloved isekai adventures, intense shonen fights, and finales to ongoing shows. We're not here for a summary of how Spring went. We want to see what award our favorites will get or roast the bad anime of the season. So let's begin on a controversial note with the anime that was the biggest letdown. The anime of Spring that was the biggest letdown is Mushoku Tensei's second season part 2. When you have high expectations for an anime and it doesn't deliver, this is the inevitable outcome. I had really enjoyed the first season's great progression of the plot and character stories through seamless pacing. Who Rudeus once was before Isekai played a role in the challenges he's forced to overcome and continued to see onwards, helping him relate to others' problems. The second season really slowed everything down as we shifted away from more of an action adventure into a season of exposition to build up new characters, relationships, and to give Rudeus time to reflect like we saw with his depression in the first part. I understand the value of world building. I just disagree with the idea of sacrificing a previous level of quality as well as it being okay for the current level to be worse to benefit the future. I've seen hell rise out of your eyes, creep up a night. My first impressions of Kaiju number 8 going into the season was an average anime that's level was being brought down by the Kaiju element, since I thought it would lean more into the Godzilla direction due to the trailer. With this ending up not being the case, I can say this was an anime I was wrong about in a good way. An immersive monster killing show where you want to see characters like Kafka and Reno succeed due to their dedication to defend others from Kaijus. As the plot progressed, it was satisfying to see the members of the squadron identify their strengths, like Kafka's knowledge of Kaijus helping to pinpoint weaknesses or an additional combat skill the monsters might have had, as well as Kikuro realizing the importance of teamwork and believing in others. While I did find Kaiju number 8 to be a solid anime, unfortunately it suffers from character and setting similarities to World Trigger without the same level of quality in its plot at the moment. Yuma from World Trigger and Kafka hiding their powers relating to the enemy as to not risk being killed or used as a weapon by a Japanese military organization. These are just plot points that are too alike for me to walk away feeling like Kaiju number 8 has created a distinct difference between the two. Hopefully the next season will set in motion the changes needed to make that happen. When it comes to being a seasonal anime viewer, the main goal is to watch whatever the best anime airing that season is. In that search, finding a dark horse that others may have passed up on but delivers a quality experience is the feeling I chase each season. For Spring, the best dark horse was Yatagarasu, a captivating drama pitting the powerful houses from the north to the south and to the east and the west against one another to secure political power. The internal struggle for the emperor's throne and the Cherry Blossom Palace's clash for who will be the consort to the prince. These pieces moving on the board unveiled the character motivations and pieced together plot points with surprising but enjoyable conclusions. Yatagarasu is a dark horse that'll reward you, as long as you're willing to give it a chance. The case can be made for a few of the anime from Spring being the best of the season, but there was one that outshined the rest. Delicious in Dungeon was a fresh, unexplored way of how the dungeon setting can show us monsters as ingredients for meals, instead of as just scary obstacles for the plot. I found the first half very satisfying to watch, similarly to anime such as Restaurant to Another World, and the latter half took that floor and raised it up a notch in Spring. By further expanding our main cast objective in the dungeon, whether that be how to separate human and monster souls that have combined, or if Laius in a race against time can become the lord of the dungeon to save Fallen. These are all meaningful reasons to continue watching since the story is progressing and our characters carry on developing. The ease in which Delicious in Dungeon weaves lighthearted moments with serious soul-crushing ones makes for a multi-course experience you won't soon forget, and that is why this was the best anime of the season. The banished former hero lives as he pleases was the latest iteration of a lifeless and devoid of creativity fantasy reincarnation garbage anime. The most amazing thing about it is how many tropes of the genre it forces. In my previous life, I was super strong, but this new world can't properly measure how powerful I am, so they think I'm low level, then I get wrapped into a plot I'd rather not be a part of, but at least I get a harem out of it. Even if we put aside all these tropes, at bare minimum, the animation shouldn't be this bad for an action anime. The banished former hero lives as he pleases was the worst anime of spring. Don't bother spending a minute of your time on it because it'll just be wasted. It's been a while since the last mystery anime successfully proved something to me, so I'm glad to have Mysterious Disappearances in here. The curiosities and their links to mythology and folklore, as well as how they intrude in modern times, their usage as a currency for otherworldly beings that seek passage out of our world, and the interactions between our main cast with the events unfolding around them captured my attention. I wanted to see how they'd solve the issues caused by curiosities, but more than that, I found myself emotionally connecting with Sumiko. As someone that aspires to one day publish a story, I relate to her difficulties of feeling like I'm not good enough. The story's not living up to the ideals I began them with, and constantly beginning and ending projects because of those feelings. While I did enjoy much of the anime, the ecchi elements felt out of place and didn't do anything to improve the anime. Nonetheless, I'd still recommend watching Mysterious Disappearances. When it came to Windbreaker, I had reservations around how well a delinquent anime could do, and it successfully proved that the theme wasn't the thing I'd come to dislike. Instead, it was lame main character syndrome. I'm looking at you, Takamichi. Nice job killing my interest in Tokyo Revengers. Sakura, on the other hand, is by far less annoying, which means I was able to pay attention to the story that was here, subverting expectations of Furin High School being a place that only values strength and instead cares about protecting others. I'm curious to see if in the future, Sakura can take up the principles of Bofurin and take the top spot. Go-Go Loser Ranger was an anime I placed into something to prove despite how little faith I had in it to actually do that. However, it felt like all the things I hate about superheroes and the Kamen Rider theme played into the critiques the anime expressed through its story. The arrogance of the heroes, their self-delusions, and how they lord over others they perceive as weaker. As a Marvel, DC, and My Hero Academia hater, these are my own criticisms brought to life. I've always found the rigid separation of morality into just good and evil by these shows and movies without moral ambiguity, the decisions so unbelievable, and I think to an extent so do viewers. This is likely why characters like Iron Man, Wolverine, or Saitama are so popular. If you find that you felt the same way, I suggest giving Go-Go Loser Ranger a watch. My only caveat is that subtitles on Hulu constantly desync, or at least mine do, and that made the viewing experience very irritating. Unnamed Memory had a chance to be a good anime and in the end failed to prove that. The romance between Oscar and Tinashe came across as heavily forced without building a sensible motive for a relationship between the two. Roping the Witch of the Azure Moon into a romance only because she can withstand a curse that won't allow a woman to give him a child is a loveless endeavor. This led to Oscar's advances making for uncomfortable scenes and the plot being so chaotic many of the events felt unrelated. The only thing that made this anime bearable was Tinashe being an interesting character whose rich backstory deserved to be expanded upon further. With that, this wraps up the Spring Anime 2024 awards, and I just keep getting better at reading into what will be popular amongst the community as is reflected in my Mal Fantasy League choices. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't, and with that, I'm out of here.